The Friendship Games, or Friendship 84, was an international multi-sport event held between the 2nd of July and the 16th of September 1984 in the Soviet Union and 8 other socialist states which boycotted the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. Although Friendship Games officials denied that the Games were to be a counter-Olympic event to avoid conflicts with the International Olympic Committee, the competition was often dubbed the Eastern Bloc's Alternative Olympics. Some 50 states took part in the competition, while the boycotting countries were represented by the strongest athletes. Other states sent the reserve teams, consisting of athletes who failed to qualify for Los Angeles. Background: on the 8th of May 1984, less than 3 months before the 1984 Summer Olympics were scheduled to begin, the Soviet Union announced its decision to boycott the Games, citing lack of security for Soviet athletes in Los Angeles. The TASS news agency further accused the United States of trying to exploit the Games for its political purposes, stating that the arrogant, hegemonic course of the Washington administration in international relations is at odds with the noble ideals of the Olympic movement. In an article published by the London Evening Standard several hours before the official announcement, Victor Lewis, a Soviet journalist writing for the Western press, thought to be used by the Kremlin as an unofficial means of leaking information to the West, first informed the world of the USSR's decision to boycott, adding that detailed plans for the Soviet bloc's alternative games had already been made. Lewis claimed they would probably be announced at the last minute to throw the American organization into chaos. The article named Bulgaria as the possible host country. On the 10th of May, Bulgaria became the first Soviet ally to join the boycott, soon followed by East Germany, Mongolia and Vietnam. Louis wrote another article on the 13th of May for the French Le Journal du Dimanche, once again stating that the Soviet Union was contemplating counter-Olympic Games, possibly held in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. However, this time he noted that the idea was unlikely, as the Soviets feared that organizing such an event might prompt the International Olympic Committee to exclude the USSR. On the same day, Soviet sports commentator Vsevolod Kuskuskin, during an interview for ABC television program This Week with David Brinkley, said the Eastern Bloc would definitely not organize such games. Also on the 13th of May, Laos, Czechoslovakia and Afghanistan announced the decision to boycott the Los Angeles Games. On the 14th of May, Mara Gromov, head of the Soviet Olympic Committee, called a press conference to discuss the boycott. During the conference, Gromov assured Moscow would not support any alternative games staged to compete with the Olympics. On the same day, Poland stated that, while Eastern Bloc officials had vetoed a counter-Olympics idea, the bloc would instead sponsor sports events in various nations as a substitute for participation in the Los Angeles Games, holding them at a different time than the Olympics. Hungary became the 9th country to boycott the 1984 Summer Olympics on the 16th of May, followed by Poland a day later. On the 20th of May, Olaf Brockman of Austrian newspaper Die Presse, citing Alexander Ushakov, head trainer of the Soviet decathlon team, said Eastern Bloc countries were hastily arranging a series of sports events. Brockman named 5 competitions: 2 track and field athletics meets, one to be held in Prague, Czechoslovakia, and the other in East Berlin and Potsdam, East Germany, plus fencing, modern pentathlon and boxing events to be held in Poland. Ushakov reportedly said the events would be held either before or after the Olympics, to avoid conflicts with the IOC, which would ban any form of counter-Olympic games. Juan Antonio Samaranch, president of the IOC, held a conference with Olympic committees of 11 Eastern Bloc countries in Prague, Czechoslovakia, starting on the 21st of May. Samaranch hoped to convince the boycotting states to change the position, but while Romania assured him it would attend the Los Angeles Olympics, the remaining 10 countries did not change the stance and even used the meeting to discuss their own summer games. The official announcement was made by Antonin Himl, president of the Czech National Olympic Committee, who appeared on Prague television on the 24th of May. Himl said that, after the Olympic Games ended, various Eastern Bloc countries would hold their own sport events in Olympic disciplines. Himl stated that the Games' intention would be to give athletes who have conscientiously prepared for the past 4 years a possibility to sell their abilities. Thus, the Friendship Games idea was officially proclaimed. Himl said the Games would be held after the 12th of August, and that his country, Czechoslovakia, would host gymnastics, archery, women's handball, and women's track and field athletics. He also gave assurances that the events would be open to all athletes, including those from non-boycotting nations. Soon after the meeting, Cuba also announced its decision to boycott the 1984 Summer Olympics. By the end of June, North Korea, South Yemen, Ethiopia and Angola had done the same. In June, the Soviet Union asked Ted Turner and his Turner Broadcasting System to televise the events held in Hungary for American audiences. Turner eventually declined, but assured that his network would give spot coverage to the Games and treat it as any other sporting event. Participating nations. Initial estimates placed the number of athletes participating in Soviet event venues at approximately 8,000. Later, the number of expected participants was lowered to 2,300, representing 49 countries. However, not all the expected athletes showed up. The exact number of athletes who took part in events held outside of the Soviet Union is unknown. While Olympic boycotting countries were represented by the strongest athletes, other states sent the reserve teams, consisting of athletes who failed to qualify for the 1984 Summer Olympics. Opening ceremony. Although the Games began on the 2nd of July with table tennis events held in North Korea, the official opening ceremony was held on the 18th of August in Moscow. Soon after the first events hosted by the Soviet Union started, the 2-hour ceremony held at the Central Lenin Stadium included girls in white leotards, red and white beach balls in unison, dozens of children in traditional costumes of the Soviet republics, a squadron of young performers which created a human weaving machine by ducking and turning to mesh the colored banners, and red-attired teenage girls with silver hula hoops, which spelled the words USSR and peace. The ceremony was described as being reminiscent of Olympic galas. As in Olympic opening ceremonies, a torchbearer carried the flame into the stadium and lit a giant bell which had been built for the 1980 Moscow Olympics. The torch had been lit from an eternal flame for World War II victims located in the Kremlin. Teams marched onto the stadium behind flags, but unlike in the Olympics, they were not national teams but sporting organizations, such as Dynamo or Spartak. Songs performed during the ceremony included a 1918 military march dedicated to the Red Army, Stadium of My Dreams, written for the 1980 Olympics, and a specially composed song with the chorus to a sunny peace, yes, 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 to a nuclear blast, no, no, no. General Secretary Konstantin Chernenko did not attend the ceremony as expected, but 5 Politburo members were present. present: Dmitry Ustinov, Mikhail Gorbachev, Grigory Romanov, Vitaly Vorotnikov and Viktor Grishin. Summary: events were hosted by 9 countries between the 2nd of July and the 16th of September 1984. With the exception of equestrian jumping, no events were held during the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. The Games were contested in 22 Olympic disciplines, and in non-Olympic table tennis, and sambo wrestling. Additionally, the Friendship Games included non-Olympic women's shooting and rhythmic gymnastic events but not women's road race cycling, which became an Olympic event in 1984. Archery: the Soviet Union won 5 out of 6 possible medals. Athletics: in an interview shortly before the events began, the Soviet team's coach Igor Ovanesyan said his athletes beat more than 10 world records during the preparations for the competition. While the Soviet athletes set no new records during the Games, they still dominated, winning more than a half of the gold medals. The only new world record was set by East German Irina Misinsky in women's discus throw, with 73.36 meters. Athletics was the only discipline which saw participation of recent Olympic gold medalists, with American sprinter Alice Brown taking part in women's 100-meter run, and West German Claudia Alosh competing in shot put. However, neither won medals. In an unusual feat, Alberto Wantorena and Rysa Dostrovsky both crossed the finish line at exactly the same moment in the men's 800-meter run. After the officials were unable to decide who came first, even after examining a photograph, both were declared winners. The annual Moscow Marathon was declared to be a Friendship Games event in 1984. This caused a minor controversy, as the United States Marine Guards of the American Embassy, who usually took part in it, withdrew after learning it would be treated as a Friendship Games competition. Basketball: the Soviet Union won the men's final against Czechoslovakia 105-70, and Cuba came in third ahead of Poland. The USSR also finished first in the women's event, but since it was a round-robin tournament, there were no semi-finals or finals. Boxing: the host nation, Cuba, fully dominated the event, winning 11 out of 12 gold medals. East German Torsten Schmitz in the welterweight category was the only non-Cuban to win gold. Teofilo Stevenson, 3-time consecutive Olympic gold medalist who lost the chance to win his 4th gold when Cuba boycotted the Los Angeles Games, won the super heavyweight category. Boxing was one of just 3 disciplines in which the Soviet Union did not win a gold medal, the others being modern pentathlon and table tennis. Canoeing hosts East Germany and the Soviet Union won all 12 gold medals, 6 apiece. Cycling: the Schleswig in Schlies, East Germany, usually used as a car or motorcycle racetrack, served as cycling venue for the individual road race. The event saw participation of top cyclists of the era, including numerous peace race veterans such as Uwe Ampela and Uwe Raab. Diving was yet another event dominated by East Germans and Soviets. Gold medalists included Alexander Portnov and Britta Baldus. Equestrian events were the only discipline contested at the same time as the 1984 Summer Olympics, as jumping events took place between 6 and the 10th of August. It was also the only discipline in which West German and Italian athletes won medals. In individual dressage, Yuri Kovshoff won both gold and silver, riding 2 different horses. Fencing: Soviet fencers won most of the men's events, while Hungary won both women's events, thanks to Gertrude Stefnik and Edith Kovacs. Field hockey: the Soviet Union A team won the men's tournament, and while the Soviet Union B team came in third. Fourth place finishes. Zimbabwe were awarded the bronze medal. A team representing the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan also competed in the men's event but lost all its matches, including a 0-27 loss to East Germany. Gymnastics. In artistic gymnastics, Olga Mostepanova achieved perfect 10 scores 10 times, 4 in individual competitions, and 6 in team events. All 15 medals in rhythmic gymnastics were won by just 4 athletes: Bulgarians Anelia Ralenkova and Dilyana Georgieva, and Soviets Galina Belaglazova and Dalia Kutkide. Handball. East Germany won the men's event, thanks to an 18-17 win over the Soviet Union, while Poland came in third. Petr Kovacs of Hungary was the top scorer with 26 goals. The USSR finished first in the women's tournament. Judo. The Soviet Union again won most of the gold medals. The event was also particularly successful for Poland, which won 7 medals. Modern pentathlon. Hungarian Laszlo Fabian won the individual competition, and Hungary also won the team event. Rowing. The USSR took 11 out of 14 gold medals, while East Germany captured the remaining 3. Sailing. Sailing took place on the Baltic Sea, near Tallinn, Estonian SSR, with the exception of 470 and Finn classes, which were contested on Lake Balaton in Hungary. Soviets and East Germans won all of the gold medals. Canada and Finland won their only Friendship Games medals. Shooting. While most disciplines mimicked the Olympic Games in terms of events, women's shooting included non-Olympic competitions, namely the 10 meters air pistol and 50 meters rifle 3 positions events. Swimming. 5 new world records were set during the competition. Sergei Zabolotnov's result of 1 minute 58 seconds and 41 milliseconds in men's 200 meters backstroke excited the crowd, as it was some 1.5 seconds better than Rick Carey's result during the Olympics. 15-year-old Sylvia Gerashev of East Germany set the world record in women's 100 meters breaststroke and was also part of the relay team that beat the 4 times 100 meters medley record. Table tennis. Table tennis, a non-Olympic sport at that time, was the only event hosted by North Korea, which won 4 out of 7 gold medals. Notably, the People's Republic of China, which was at odds with most socialist states following the Sino-Soviet split, took part in the event. Tennis. Soviet players dominated the singles category, and also won the men's doubles event. The Czechoslovakian women's double team was the only non-Soviet team to win gold. Volleyball. Not surprisingly, the Soviet team finished first in the men's event, over Cuba and Poland. In women's tournament, Cuba won the final against the USSR. Water polo. The Soviet team, composed mostly of the players who won gold during the 1980 Summer Olympics, finished first, while Hungary and Cuba took the second and third spots. Weightlifting. Dominated by Bulgaria and the Soviet Union, the event saw 30 world records broken, including 2 in the super heavyweight category, set by Anatoly Pisarenko. Wrestling. In addition to freestyle and Greco-Roman events, non-Olympic Sambo wrestling events were also contested. Sambo was the only event hosted by Mongolia. Medal table. The following table is based on statistics from the books Na Olimpijskom Shalaku 1984 and Gwiazdy Sporto 84 and does not include Sambo wrestling. Results. Comparisons to the Olympic Games. Media on both sides of the Iron Curtain frequently compared the results of 1984 Summer Olympics and the Friendship Games. Over 60 Friendship Games results would have secured medals at the Olympic Games. East Bloc athletes outperformed Olympic winners in 20 of 41 track and field events and 11 of 29 swimming events. Hadley Uvi, who won the 1984 Olympic gold medal in 50 meters running target shooting, obtained the same score in the Friendship Games. He would have only placed sixth. Indeed, in events such as weightlifting or wrestling, the Friendship Games had almost all of the top athletes of the time. However, some journalists noted that making such comparisons was unjustified because of differing conditions and equipment. For example, Mali's Gore's result of 10.95 in women's 100 meters run was slightly better than Evelyn Ashford's winning time of 10.97 at the 1984 Olympics. But when the two met head-to-head a week after the Friendship Games, Ashford was much faster than Gore and set the new world record. Similarly, Eastern Bloc results in track cycling were better than Olympic results, but Friendship Games cyclists competed on an indoor wooden track, while the Olympic events took place on an outdoor concrete track. It is like saying Carl Lewis was faster than Jesse Owens. Muhammad Ali would have beaten Joe Louis. A secretariat would have outrun Man-O-War. Sam Lacey of the Afro-American concluded. The comparisons also had political significance. While Friendship Games organizers repeatedly assured the press that their event was not an alternative Olympics, presumably to avoid punitive IOC measures, Soviet state-run media often alluded to such comparisons. The TASS agency declared that the Eastern Bloc's Games were a major event in the Olympic year, while the Soviet ski sport newspaper described the Games as the main event of the Olympic quadrennium. Mara Gramov, head of the Soviet Olympic Committee, said that the socialist nations remained faithful to the task of strengthening the unity of the Olympics movement, while describing the Los Angeles Games as full of chauvinism and mass psychosis. When asked about the Friendship Games, Monique Berliou, then director of the IOC, said she had no reaction whatsoever to the competition. Aftermath. In 2006, the Law and Justice Party in Poland proposed granting Friendship Games medalists sports retirement benefits similar to those given to Olympic medalists. The proposal was never voted upon. Venues.